Happy Monday. Welcome LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. Welcome back. I'm Dr. Kimberly Madison, a doctorally prepared nurse practitioner, and today we're going to talk about something that could literally change how you negotiate for the rest of your career. Let's get Instagram in here real quick. Let me know where you're joining from in the comments. We're covering a very important topic today. We're talking money. If you've ever looked at your practice's revenue numbers and thought, I'm generating tens of thousands of dollars a month, why doesn't my paycheck reflect that? Then this video is going to answer that question for you. And the twist is that this isn't just employees versus employers. This is about recognizing that we need each other. Practice owners need talented NPs who understand the business, and NPs need practice owners who value our work and compensate us fairly. When we understand each other's numbers, we can build something sustainable together. When you get in here, let me know in the comments where you're joining us from. This is our first time going live, I think in the new year. And we're going to continue our conversation on financial literacy for cosmetic NPs. Let me know when you get here. We're talking real numbers tonight. I'm going to share my screen and everything. One of the most asked questions, especially when it comes to dermatology. Hi. Let me know when you get here where you're joining me from in the comments. Because you hear me talk about entrepreneurship all the time, and I think it's wonderful. I think it's one of the keys to financial freedom. But the truth is, entrepreneurship is hard. It's not for everybody, and everybody doesn't want it. And all of us are here to play very different roles. But the truth is, if you're a business owner, if you stay consistent and persistent, your business will grow. And when it grows, you're going to need help. And simultaneously, there's someone out there who wants to help you. They might not care about your vision. They only care about putting food on their table. But even still, the two of you can find a very happy medium. I always say negotiation isn't an argument. It's simply a conversation. And we all want the same thing at the end of the day. And truthfully, I think a lot of people don't even really want to be in business, but they're having such a poor employee experience that they think their only option is to go into business for themselves. And we see the numbers that within 2 to 3 years that they're going bankrupt. And that's completely avoidable. And hopefully the conversation we're going to have today will give you the tools and the confidence to have those conversations more often. By the end of this video, you're going to understand 5 critical things. Number 1, the 4 billing categories that determine your paycheck and practice profitability. Number 2, how to calculate your real productivity. And it's not gross charges. Number 3, what collection means and why 68% is industry standard. Hey, TikTok, when you get here, let me know in the comments where you're joining us from. And let's see, we're freezing over here on LinkedIn. It's a little bit delayed over here. Hi, everyone. Let me know where you're joining me from in the comments. Let's see. We got to stop all this choppy stuff. I think it's Instagram. I think Instagram is messing me up. Hold on. Let's see. Let's get this off the screen. Let's see if that helps. Okay, let's give it a try. Okay, we're going to talk about what collection rates mean, why 60-80% is the industry standard, how to request your data before walking into your next negotiation. Hi, TikTok. And number 5, what to say to both employees and employers to create a partnership, not a fight. We're going to break it down. But first, this is too choppy. Let me know in the comments where you're joining us from and how you feel about negotiations. On a scale from 0 to 10, 10 being real confident, you negotiate everything, to 0, you always accept the first offer. And if you're new to cosmetics or dermatology or even nursing, and you feel like that is your only option because that's what you've heard, and you're afraid that if you negotiate that they might take back their offer, let us know in the comments. We're going to be going live all week. Tomorrow I'll be back to talk about how to do the negotiation. Specifically, that episode is going to be dedicated to Tanae. Tanae is a new grad nurse. Actually, she was a guest on the Melanin Initiative podcast, fall 24. We did our first panel with an MD, Dr. Constance Foreman, myself, and Dr. Shayo Reyes, Dr. Prepared PA. And we had a panel talking to Tanae, who at the time was trying to decide which route she wanted to take. Fast forward, and she just graduated from an accelerated program. She's already in a nurse tech program, and she didn't negotiate then. But I'm trying to save her before she has her next negotiation after she passes her NCLEX, and she will have a real conversation. And so I figured you all might enjoy this, and we'll have it on air for her to revisit and everyone else. So tonight we're going to look at 10-month productivity data as an example. This is a composite data of multiple dermatology NPs I've consulted with. Tonight we're going to call her Sophie for the purpose of this breakdown. She's generating over $100,000 a month in gross charges during peak months. So that's actually over $1 million a year on paper. But her paycheck is $6,000 a month, or $72,000 a year for her base salary. Now, here's what typically happens in this scenario. You as the employee, you hear those numbers and you feel undervalued. You think, I'm generating all this revenue and I'm barely seeing any of it. Does my employer even care? And you know what happens when you have those questions? You go to the group chat and you ask other employees for advice. When you have challenges with your employer or employee, you don't go to other people who are in the same role as you. We all need to sit at the same table. And tonight I've created that table so we can all sit down together. So while the employee might feel undervalued, the practice owner is thinking, I'm paying a competitive salary, providing benefits, covering malpractice insurance, providing support staff, and they're still not satisfied. What more do they want? And so all the employers are in a group chat complaining about how much people aren't grateful, how little business acumen they have when it comes to building the business, and how they're just going to not hire anyone, run their business on their own. They've decided and committed to just capping the success of their business because they just can't deal with staff. If you're looking for a business opportunity, staffing is your answer. No, it's not sexy, but no business can stay open without staff. No business can stay open without being cleaned. I love the cleaning industry. Staffing and cleaning, not sexy. No little kid is told to grow up and to be those professionals. But like I said, no other business can stay in business if you don't have those two things in place. When it comes to dermatology and cosmetics, they need your help. So both perspectives, Sophie and the employer, they're both valid, but both are missing critical information. And the real problem is that neither party understands the numbers. Neither party knows what the other person is dealing with. And so they can't have a productive conversation about compensation. That's what we're going to fix tonight, because we need each other and we can make this work for both of us. And when we're talking about cosmetics specifically, you're new all over the place. You're new to cosmetics. You're new to being an employee in a specialty where you do have to have some business acumen. And you're new to being an employer. So you got burnt out at a job. You left that job. You went and spent money on Botox and filler. No one would hire you because you didn't have the 2 years of experience, even though you took that course. So now you don't want to continue to lose money and you're trying to get out of that burnout situation. So the advice is to go start your business. You go and start your own business. At no point in time are you really thinking about hiring other people. Are you really thinking about creating a wonderful work environment for them? So you make decisions based out of fear because you're afraid that whoever you hire, you can't trust them. You've been burnt in the past and no one can do as good a job as you. And it's true. They might not do a good a job as you. They might do a better job. And even if they only do 85% as good, that cost, that 15% difference, it's worth it. If it means you can go home and have dinner with your family, if you can have some peace, and if you can help someone else gain some skills and some confidence and help you grow your business and help them achieve their goals. So if you're new here, we always do devotional or prayer. And so we're going to do that tonight. This book is called Jesus Calling. If you've been following me on YouTube, I think this is now 2 or 3 years I'm going on. This is the first book I ever started with. My mom gave me this book. It's written by Sarah Young. It's called Jesus is Calling for Medical Professionals. It's a devotional. So since it's the 19th of January, I'm going to read page 19. It's called Refuse to Worry. Refuse to worry, which is when we're talking about money, that's a thing we can end up doing and losing a lot of sleep over. In this world, there will always be something enticing you to worry. That is the nature of a fallen, fractured planet. Things are not as they should be. So the temptation to be anxious is constantly with you, trying to worm its way into your mind. The best defense is continual communication with me, richly seasoned with thanksgiving. Awareness of my presence fills your mind with light and peace, leaving no room for fear. This awareness lifts you up about your circumstances, enabling you to see problems from my perspective. Live close to me. Together we can keep the wolves of worry at bay. Be joyful always. Pray continually. Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. That's 1 Thessalonians chapters 5, verses 16 through 18. For with you is the fountain of life. In your light, we see light. Psalm 36, 9. Stick around to the end because we'll go over our church announcements. So I'm going to share my screen. This is where we really get into the numbers. This is a good chance for you to take some notes. Okay. So hopefully you can see this. Give me a thumbs up if you can see. Oh, you guys, TikTok, if you want to see the screen, like I actually have some real numbers up here that we're going to go into detail. You can head on over to my YouTube channel, Kimberly Madison DMP, under the live tab. All my videos are under the live tab. This one is under the money playlist. I'm also on LinkedIn right now. And on LinkedIn, you should be able to see the screen. Okay, so for everyone else who can see the screen, we're going to break down both perspectives, the employee and the employer. And this is what your productivity report should look like. This is 10 months of performance from February through November. And we're going to break down the 4 columns. So column 1 shows gross charges. This is what was billed to insurance and patients every single month. Now, if you look at February, you can see $88,500 in gross charges. By November, it was $112,500 in gross charges. The billing is consistent and the volume is growing. So for 10 months, it's $1,035,200 in gross charges. Now, here's what an employee typically will think when they see this number. I generated over $1 million for this practice. Why is my paycheck only $72,000 a year? And now what the employer is thinking is they think we're keeping all of that, but we're not receiving $1 million. Look at the next column. That's your contractual adjustments. So this is what insurance companies don't pay. They negotiate rates, usually paying only 50 to 70% of what you billed. Okay, so you decide you want to bill something for $500, but the insurance company's like, oh, we're only going to pay $200. So when you look at February, you have that $52,100 in contractual adjustments. That was never collectible. It just disappears from the revenue picture completely. The total for 10 months is $620,700 in contractual adjustments. If you think about that, over $620,000 it just disappeared. That's more than half of the gross charges. Now, if you're an employee, you're thinking, how did $600,000 just disappear? That's more than half of what you billed. Now, from the employer's perspective, they're saying, exactly, and neither of us can control that. It's how insurance contracts work. We can't collect what was never available to collect. So as the business owner, you set a price. If you're working with insurance is going to negotiate and say, yeah, we're only going to pay a certain amount. So the difference between what you charge and what they are willing to pay is what's considered the contractual adjustment. And it's pretty much a discount that you're getting to be part of the group, to get access to their network. And so you're never going to see that money. So you shouldn't really even count it. Now, in column 3, you see your net charges. This is what's left after they make that adjustment, after they take out the discount, after they get their discount. Now, what the practice can actually collect, if everything goes perfectly, you see February, that is $36,400 net charges. In November, $45,100 net charges. So the total for 10 months is $414,500 in net charges. This is the number that actually matters when you talk about productivity. In column 4, these are collections. If you're new to dermatology or a specialty, this might be the first time you're hearing that. If you haven't even gotten into NP school, it's definitely going to be probably the first time you've ever heard that, unless you worked at some kind of outpatient setting and you heard people talking about it. Now, when it comes to collections, this is what actually received in the bank account. Not everyone pays. Insurance denies claims. We know patients don't pay their balance. Some claims get lost in billing. And so in February, you see $12,500 in collections. So you set a price insurance got their discount. You have the actual amount that could be collected if everything went perfectly. And then you have the actual number based on what was able to be collected. In November, you have 42,800 in collections. And so the total for 10 months is 345,000 in collections. Now, this is where it gets interesting for both parties. TikTok, remember, if you want to see the table where I'm showing the actual numbers, you can go over to YouTube or LinkedIn. Okay, so let's look at this. So you calculate the overall collection rate for these 10 months. The collection divided by net charges equals collection rate. So 345,000 divided by $414,500 equals 83.2%. That's the collection rate. Now, if you're an employee, you're wondering, is that good? And I can tell you that it's excellent. By industry standards for dermatology practices, the average is anywhere from 60 to 80%. So this performance at 83.2 is outperforming most practices. If you're the business owner, you're seeing this, you're going to think, oh, we're at 83%. That's actually really impressive. Our billing team is doing great work. But when you look at February specifically, that 12,500 in collections divided by 36,400 net charges equals 34% collection rate. Now that's going to be concerning. You went from 83 to 34. You want to say, okay, what happened? Often it's a systems issue, maybe an EHR switch, billing staff turnover, a major payer changing their submission process. Claims might have sat in limbo for over 60 days before they could even be submitted. So if you're the employee, you might be saying, oh, my February numbers were low because of a billing problem, not because I wasn't working hard enough. And you'd be exactly right. If you look at June, you see that's 36,400 collected on 37,600 in net charges. That's 97% collection rate. That month was incredible. Now, when you look at November, 42,800 collected on 45,100, that's a 95% collection rate. The key insight here is that the employee wasn't underperforming in those other months. The practice had billing insufficiencies in certain months that affected those numbers. And when you understand the changes, when you understand this, it changes the entire conversation. Sometimes it'll be up, sometimes it'll be down because of when they were able to collect from insurance and the patient. Now, if you're finding this helpful, I want you to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. So every time I go live, which is you get a new video every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Central. And when I do record a bunch of content at once, I'm able to answer all your questions in real time. You don't have to set an appointment. You don't have to wait for me to respond to your email or your DM. And it's free. You can help guide that conversation. And if you're subscribed, you'll get notified every single time I go live. And we'll be continuing our conversation about money. Which is there to help both you as the business owner as well as your staff who's there to help carry out your vision. If you've ever asked your employer for your productivity report, put a yes in the chat. Now, let's look at what this data actually means for compensation. Now, the total picture, you have your gross charges of $1,35,200, net charges of $414,500. Collections of $345,000. The average monthly collections of $34,500. The overall collection rate was 83.2%, which we've already talked about was excellent. Now, the compensation structure in this example, you start with your base salary, that's $72,000 per year, which is $6,000 per month over the span of 12 months. Now, even though we're only looking at 10 months of productivity data here, when you add the benefits, malpractice, and the overhead allocation, the total cost to the business is approximately $10,000 per month per provider. This is the part you definitely don't learn in fee school. Now, the employee is receiving an approximately 20.9% of the total collections at base salary. That's your $72,000 divided by that $345,000. But the total cost to the practice, including salary plus benefits plus overhead plus support staff, is going to be closer to 35 to 40% of collections. Now, from the business owner's perspective, the provider, you're generating $345,000 in collections over 10 months. The practice's total cost for that provider is approximately $100,000 to $120,000. And that includes your salary plus benefits, plus overhead, plus support staff, plus space. Now, a profit margin on this provider's productivity is 20 to 30% after all costs are accounted for. Now, here's what a productive conversation could look like when both parties understand these numbers. If you're the employee, you can say, I see my collection is 83%. That's above industry standard of 60 to 80. And you'd be correct. It's wonderful performance. Now, the business owner could acknowledge that your collection rate is very impressive and look at the growth. February was 12,000, November 42,000. That's more than triple. Now, if you're the employee, you might say, but my paycheck didn't change month to month. I'm actually still making 6,000 base salary, regardless of whether collections were 12,000 or 42. Now, if you have a fair business owner, they'll say, you're right. Let's talk about a performance bonus structure tied to your collection rate. If you maintain above 80% collections, we could add 2 to 3% of your monthly collections as a quarterly bonus based on these numbers, and that would have given you an extra 2 to 3,000 per quarter. As the employee, you can come back and say, what if we improve billing efficiency overall? What if we can get those February and May dips up to 90% plus collection rates consistently? Now, the practice owner is going to say, then we all benefit. Higher collections means room for raises, better bonuses, and equipment upgrades, and it just makes your job much easier. When you succeed, the business grows. That's what I'm here for, to grow the business. And when the business grows, you succeed as the employee. It's a partnership, a mutual benefit. We all can benefit from this. Instead of, thinking of negotiations as arguments, you're building compensation structure that rewards performance and acknowledges the reality that billing efficiency isn't always in the business owner's control, in the provider's control. Now, let me tell you exactly what to say, depending on which side of the conversation you're on. If you're an employee, NP or PA, when you request your productivity report, it should look like the table that we have here on the screen. You need 5 things. Number 1, and let's take this down. Remember TikTok, if you wanted to see that table, you have to run on over to YouTube or LinkedIn under my name, Kimberly Madison, DMP, under the Live tab, the Money playlist. Okay, so when you request your report, it should look like the table I just showed you. You're going to need 5 things: your monthly gross charges, contractual adjustments, net charges, collections, and then at least 6 to 12 months of data so you can see some patterns. Then you're going to calculate 3 things: your collection rate, which is collections, the payments you were able to receive, divided by the net charges, your average monthly collections, and your growth trajectory. These are collections, and this will help you see if your collections are increasing month over month. And so what you could say is, I'd like to review my productivity report for the past 10 to 12 months. I want to understand my gross charges, my net charges, collections, and the collection rate, so we can have a data-driven conversation about my compensation. I'm not asking for a raise today. I'm asking to understand the numbers so we can figure out what's fair for both of us. If your numbers show a high collection rate like this example, you can say, I see that I'm above industry rate at 83%, particularly in dermatology. Can we discuss how my compensation structure could reflect this level of performance? I'm also interested in understanding what caused the lower collections in certain months, so together we can work to maintain higher rates on a very consistent basis. If you're the employer, and your NP or PA shows you this level of data literacy and asks this kind of question, you should be very excited, because they're not just demanding more money, they're asking you to understand the business. They're thinking like a partner, not just an employee. And so I know a lot of people, they don't want to get in business, they don't want to be an employee, an entrepreneur, they don't want to be in business. But the truth is, healthcare is a business. So when you sign up for all this, we're not in the nursing business or the physician business, we're in the healthcare industry. The roles we play, that's a totally different conversation than the healthcare business. And so you're in business. You either have your own business or you're working for someone who has a business. And unless you talk business, you're going to leave money on the table every single day, not only for you, but for the person you work for. And so it behooves both parties to understand business so that we can all get to the same goal, which is putting food on our table. And the more money you make, obviously, the more food you can put on your table. But ultimately, the goal is to have that financial freedom. And together, you can do that. If you're a business owner, you need help. Why not look at your clinicians and your providers as people who can actually help you, instead of making decisions out of fear and anxiety that they might go up the street or they might leave you or whatever the case may be. You've been burnt in the past, you're going to have to let it go. You've been burnt by a lot of things. You've been disappointed by a lot of things. If you've been in healthcare, you've heard no a million times. People have done things they don't like, but you got over it. You still showed up. You can do the same thing with your business. Certainly, you can put guardrails in place. You can have documents and checkpoints and all those things, but you don't want to base your decisions on the growth of your business on fear and anxiety of the past or maybe the present. And hire are the people who are experts have and what city you're joining us from. Are all of you here in dermatology and cosmetics? Okay, welcome back YouTube and LinkedIn. Okay, so we talked about the four things. Remember, okay, so after you get those numbers, you're going to say, if you're the employer, say, I'm glad you're looking at those numbers. Your 83% collection rate is excellent. You're outperforming most providers. And honestly, you're outperforming the industry benchmarks. So let's talk about a performance-based bonus structure that rewards you for maintaining this level of productivity, which means working more. Okay. And let's also work together on the months where collections dip. That's usually a billing issue or a scheduling issue, and we can solve that together. And then actually follow through with the four things. Number one, provide that quarterly productivity report automatically. Don't make them ask for it. Number two, explain what contractual adjustments are and why they vary. Number three, show them where the overhead goes. They need to understand your costs too. In nursing, we have stewardship. We're supposed to be stewards of the resources. Just because you have access to a room full of supplies, it doesn't mean you're not supposed to be mindful and considerate of the cost, because somebody is paying that. And sometimes that's you. And that's something you can do. Wherever you're working at, you can put those numbers up so it makes it easier for people to understand how much everything costs. Nursing school kind of does us a disservice because we don't talk about those numbers, but we're impacted by them. And patients understand them sometimes a lot better than we do. Okay, so you're going to explain your contractual adjustments and why they vary. You're going to show them where the overhead goes so they can understand your costs, and you're going to create mutual goals. You can say something like, if we can improve our practice-wide collection rate from 70 to 80, here's how this benefits everyone. You get higher bonuses. I can invest in better equipment. We can hire more support staff. Everybody loves that. If you love that, put a thumbs up in the comments. Now, when your employee understands the business, they become your partner, not adversaries. I told you that story before that Jade had told me. There was an MA working for a dermatologist and like for 5 years. And one day they came and said, I've got to move. And the dermatologist said, why? And they said, because the commute's too long. And they said, well, why don't you just move closer? And they said, because I don't make enough money. And it was just that simple conversation. The dermatologist increased their pay. The MA moved closer to work and ended up staying there another 5 years. Can you imagine that the benefits for the employee and the employer? For the employer, you have someone who knows your business inside and out for 10 years. You want trust? That's trust that you can't buy. And if you're an employee, talk about stability for you and your family. If you're in school, if you're building a business, if you're raising a family, to be able to stay close to work, not have to sit in the car all day long, you're going to love that. You're going to be willing to make that adjustment. And all it took was a conversation. You're assuming people are thinking about you as much as you're thinking about you, and they're not. It's really up to you to have these conversations, to keep track of what you're doing at work. Even if your company keeps track of things, you need to keep track of them too. That is your responsibility. Now, I want to hear from you in the comments. If you're an NP or PA who's never seen your productivity report, let us know. Or are you a practice owner who regularly shares this data with your team? Are you afraid to share this data? Let us know. You don't want to let fear drive your business. I want to know where you are on this journey so we can show up and support you. Your engagement also helps our colleagues when they're looking for information like this that will show up higher in the search results. This is why we created the Mahogany Dermatology Nursing Internship, because we need each other. You heard me say it all the time. If you stay consistent and persistent, and that's literally the only key to success. Not your age, not your zip code, not how many degrees you have, not how many years you've been in practice. The staying consistent and persistent, the showing up every day. If today you say you want to be X, Y, and Z, and you can say that every single day for the next 10 years, it's done. It's done today, the minute you decide that. No permission needed, no validation needed. Now, if you stay consistent and persistent, your business will grow. And when it grows, you're going to need talented, business savvy clinicians. That's what the internship represents. Someone who understands financial literacy, who can help build something sustainable. We as clinicians, we need mentors to teach other people, to help us grow our business, and to let you know that you're already enough. You just need community, strategy, and financial literacy to unlock your value. That's what Jade represented. She was our 2025 intern. She came in as someone with 10 years of experience in dermatology as an MA, then registered nurse in the NICU. When I met her, she was planning to get her certification in dermatology as a nurse, and she was thinking about going to MP school. And I'm not saying you don't need to do all that, but look, now Jade's launching her business, Go Skin Check, without another degree, without another certification, and without 6 figures of debt. Okay? And she's now on the trajectory to change the future of her family without needing permission, without needing the perfect job, the perfect city, the perfect paycheck. She didn't need any of that. She just needed to believe and then take action. That's what we're doing tonight. Help you take action. We're explaining the problem, we're giving you the words, and we're telling you what to do, which is take action and don't make decisions based on fear. That's the last thing you want to do, whether you're the employee or the employer. They need you as much as you need them. As soon as someone has to bring in a new employee, it costs so much money. It takes about 6 months to recoup what you spend on hiring a new NP, and about 8 to 9 months for a physician. So for those months, that means the business is really losing money because you're not operating at the highest capacity. So every time you leave and you go start all over, that business has to start all over. Another example, there's an NP friend of mine, she trains NPs on skills. So let's say you're the NP, you take her course, let's say it's $350. But a hospital system saw her social media content. They wanted to bring her business on to train their NPs because they noticed the pattern. Every 6 months, those NPs were leaving the hospital. Now they just spent all that money. Now, instead of saying, oh, I charge NPs $350 to take my course, she shifts the language. She's still doing the exact same thing. She's going to come in and train those NPs. Now she's saving that business $500,000 because she went and understood how much it cost them to bring on a new provider. Because when you bring on a new provider, they're being trained under someone else. So not only are they not working at full capacity, that provider who's training them is now working slower than they normally do. And while the two of you might complain about that experience, the business, they never hear about those complaints, and they quite frankly don't care. So if I'm the person training and I'm getting frustrated because the person I'm training is slow, the business, that they don't care. Now, what they care about is that my productivity is down. And so those percentages I was getting before, they're going to see that on their end. And so when you go to talk to them about problems, you need to talk about problems that they see, not you see. But at the end, you still both get the same benefit. And what happens is then she's able to change their retention rate, to improve it so that people aren't leaving within less than 12 months. The average was 6 months they were leaving. Her goal was like, hey, bring me in and I can at least increase your retention rate beyond the first 12 months. After the first 12 months, then, they can have someone else come in and help maintain that retention rate. But every time you leave, it costs that business a lot of money. So you can't be afraid to negotiate thinking they're going to rescind their offer. If they've gotten to the point that they're giving you an offer, they've spent so much time to get to that point. They don't want to lose the time that they put into you. So again, you can't let fear influence your decision. When I talk about entrepreneurs, time and capital are limited. So if I've already spent 2 weeks interviewing you, looking at resumes, this call, that call, this email, I've already spent a lot of time, and time is money, on you. If you come and negotiate with me just because we might disagree, I'm not going to fire you. I'm not going to pull away the offer. I still need you. I still need help. Another example, let's say I refer you to someone, you want to make a book, and I say, hey, they can help you write your book. And then you tell me, oh, you know what, they charge so much, I can't afford it. And I say, yeah, well, they're trying to make some money. And you say, well, yeah, I know. No, I'm like, no, they want to make some money. So don't just say no. That cuts off the conversation. If you continue the conversation, they're still in a position to make money. Yeah, they might want to make 10,000, but they'd rather make 8,000 than zero. So you can't be afraid of the negotiation. And the more you do it, it's a muscle. The more you do it, the better you get. I want you to start negotiating literally everything. When you go to Starbucks, when you go to the gas station, literally everything. You just ask them, hey, are there any specials today? Is there any way you can reduce this price here? You just ask them. Get used to hearing no and be ready to prepare for the no. It's called preparing for the objection. They will if they're good at negotiating, they're gonna come back and they're gonna have an objection. Don't be afraid of it. Plan for it. Okay. So the application for the Mahogany Dermatology Nurse Internship is still open. It closes this Saturday on January 24th at 11:59 p.m. Central. Jade dropped her final reflection article today on the Mahogany Dermatology blog. In addition to reading the last reflection, I dropped an audio clip so you can hear a summary of our entire year. So you can listen to that on your go. And you know what? It's the beginning of the year. You're thinking about what you were able to accomplish last year and how you want your life to be so different. When I met Jade last year, like I said, she thought she had to go back and get another certification. She thought she had to go back and get another degree, that she would have to work as an MP for X amount of years before she could even think about starting a business. And in less than 12 months, she did more than she ever imagined, more than I even than I imagined. She accomplished 4 major things. Number 1, she co-authored a systematic review on AI-assisted dermatology we just found out Friday. It was accepted by the Journal of Clinical and Aesthetic Dermatology's MPPA Perspectives for their publication that will be for May, June of this year. Thank you, Jade. Congratulations. Number 2, she wrote 17 articles across multiple platforms. She founded Go Skin Check LLC, which launches next month right here in Houston. It's an innovative solution for bringing dermatology care to your home. And number 4, she earned a founding advisory board position for the Alliance of Cosmetic Nurse Practitioners, where she's already planning her next presentation for us, all as a registered nurse. She didn't wait for another degree, and she didn't wait for permission, and you don't have to either. In her final reflection, she wrote, I had plenty of accomplishments in life, big and small, but for years, I decided those accomplishments didn't matter and they weren't good enough. I'd never taken the time to really reflect and let them be proof of my value to myself. Just like Jade says in her article, I want you to know you're already enough. When you find the right partnership, whether it's an employer, a mentor, or a collaborator, you can build something sustainable together. That's what me and Jade proved this last year. Most cosmetic nurse practitioners lack financial literacy and business strategy. That's why 70% struggle or fail within the first few years. But when you understand the numbers, when you have data-driven conversations like the one that we just went through, you become investable. You become a partner, not just an employee. Whether you're building a side practice or a multi-location empire, your doors stay open. That's what we're here for, to keep your doors open, because when your doors stay open, not only can you put food on your table, but our patients get the care they need when they need it from the people they want to get it from. That's what this is all about. It's always been about the patient. It will always be about the patient. And remember, nurses are patients too. That same compassion and love that we're taught to give our patient, we have to give it to each other. And it can start right here at the negotiation table. It can start right here when you participate in an internship to grow your business and to give someone the encouragement, the access, the keys to do something similar, to do something bigger and greater. It's not just about us. You have to have something beyond you, something like your legacy. It needs to be bigger than you. And in order for that to happen, it's going to take more than you. Okay. So what I want you to remember from this video, you're already enough. You don't need more credentials to understand your value. You need data and community and strategy. Data like we had today, strategy, like we talked about today, and community, like we have at the Alliance. And if the Alliance isn't a good fit for you, you build your own community, okay? Whether you're an employee preparing to negotiate or a business owner trying to retain good talent, that is literally the number one conversation employers are having is how do I attract and retain good talent? We know you guys are out there, but you know what you have to do? You got to tell your kids, you got to reframe what you're telling your children, because we tell all our kids to go to a good school, pick a good degree, and we assume that's going to give you a good job. And we assume that that good job is going to give you a good paycheck. And we assume that all of that is going to equate to a good life. But we know for a fact none of those things are guaranteed. But think about the mindset. That person applying to your business, that you've been consistent and persistent. Now your business is growing and you're looking for help. And you put out a resume talking about how lovely it is to work for you. The mindset of that person coming to work for you is only thinking about themselves, because that's the mindset that we give our children. And so what we, as a coach and as a mentor, one of the hardest things is helping people see their own value, especially when they're coming into something new like cosmetics, dermatology, or business. They only focus on what they don't know, and they forego everything else that they've acquired and understand. And dermatology doesn't make it that easier, because they don't care about your nursing experience. They don't care about your 20 years in the ICU. So it is a little bit challenging to realize that you do still have value. And as a business owner, you got to think about all the other ways you need help. Maybe they don't have dermatology experience, but maybe they're exceptional at organization or finances or marketing or strategic partnerships or staffing. These are all areas you need help with. So you might have hired them to take care of the patient, but then you realize they have all the qualities of your next CFO. So you got to be a little bit more open-minded about who can actually help you. But yeah, if you have children, you got to reframe the way you have them going out into the world, because they should be contributors, not just receivers and consumers. Because we all can win when we do that mind shift. Now, if you feel confident about requesting your productivity data now, then you're ready to learn the negotiation framework that we're going to talk about tomorrow in honor of Tanae, who's a new grad nurse and who needs to prepare for her interview. Because when you're starting out, whether it's a specialty, an in nurse or NP, you're setting the bar. That first job, you're setting the bar. The last thing you need to do is be doing this by yourself. I don't want you to confuse the compassion and love that your professors gave you with what you're going to have out here in the business world. It's not the same thing, okay? Don't confuse the people with the business. Just because you're applying for that job, it doesn't mean they're giving you the best offer. They're there to grow the business. They expect you to negotiate, especially if you're a woman. Women, there's a book out there, Women Never Say Yes, right? When we struggle with that. Just because you're new, I don't care if it's a specialty or it's your role, you play the game. They're playing it with you. They're giving you a low ball answer because they're expecting you to negotiate. So meet their expectation. And if you can, and I think I wrote about this on the blog. If you feel like you can't do it, have someone else do it for you, whether it's through email or whether it's through the meeting. It can be someone you pay, like a lawyer, or it can be just someone who's willing to stand up for you. That's literally it. Just like entertainers and athletes, you can do the same thing, friend, and you can do this for your friend too. It helps maintain that business relationship, the working relationship, which can get a little muddy when you're talking about numbers and negotiation. So have a third party come in there, handle that for you. They won't be afraid to hear no because it's not their numbers, but they will go to bat for you. They might go to bat a little bit harder than you do because you're afraid of losing the opportunity. So think about that. So we'll go over negotiation tactics tomorrow in honor of Tanae. Remember, the Mahogany Dermatology Nurse internship application closes this Saturday at 11 p.m. Central. If you have questions, look, this is a very different model. It's not what you're used to. It's very NP business focused. So if you have questions, you want to hop on a call or an email, just let me know before the deadline. Happy to do that. Happy to answer any questions for you. In fact, because I get so many questions about this innovative structure, very public experiment, the last few articles on the blog have been me explaining the internship, my philosophies on business, the gaps that we're trying to fill, and my vision, my mission, and how I think you can be a part of that. So that's it, everyone. That was very long. I thank you all for being here. Thank you for all your engagement. TikTok, once again, you are the best. TikTok, no one can touch TikTok right now. Remember, TikTok has the best engagement. YouTube has the best longevity if you're trying to do this for the long run. But if you're a healthcare professional, you have to be on LinkedIn. That's where all the networking is happening. And networking is more than just for business owners. Networking is for anyone that's out here taking care of patients. I'll see you all tomorrow night. And I thank you all for